Welcome to the Writers Weekly Podcast, a forum geared toward the writing enthusiast and those who want to make money from their writing. I'm Brian Whidden, managing editor of Writers Weekly, and I'll be your host along with Angela Hoy, the creator of Writers Weekly and president and CEO of BookLocker.com, a full-service book publishing company. Whether you want to learn how to become a professional writer, how to find writing gigs, or even publish your own book, then you come to the right place. We'll be discussing all kinds of topics relating to the writing and publishing industries. Don't forget, you can also click over to writersweekly.com. There, you'll find not only thousands of articles about professional writing, you can also find current paying markets and job listings to help you boost your writing career and even your bottom line. But for now, let's get on to this episode of the Writers Weekly Podcast. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Writers Weekly Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Whidden, and with me again is Angela Hoy, owner-operator, CEO, president of BookLocker.com, and the owner of WritersWeekly.com. Hello, Angela.
Present.
Yeah. You're so exciting.
Wow. I know, right?
And with us again, here we are, part 2. This is episode 46, is Gary Sturgis. He is our number one bestseller here at BookLocker.com. He's got an amazing following. He wrote several surviving grief books. He's got a total of 7 books with us. Gary, hello, welcome back, and tell us a little bit about yourself for those who haven't caught it yet.
Hi, thanks for having me back again. So I'm an author, a grief coach, a bereavement facilitator, and the creator and founder of the Surviving Grief community. My journey into this work started after the death of my spouse in 2014 after a battle with stage 4 metastatic melanoma. And like so many people, I found myself searching for support, understanding, and resources that spoke honestly about grief. And today, through my books, including my international bestseller, Surviving Grief, 365 Days a Year, I'm hoping that I'm providing companion resources for grieving individuals that are going through a similar experience.
Great. And if y'all have not yet, go back, listen to episode 45. Gary's just done wonders at putting together a community, a following of people who are faithful to him and continue to not just buy his books, but interact with him online. And it's done wonders for his sales. So if you're looking to earn money on your book, he is a great model to follow. And this is episode 46, part 2 of how to earn thousands per month in book royalties. And we are going to continue where we left off last week.
Last week we talked about, writing your first book. Gary turned 1 book into 7 books and into an entire business. So yeah, one thing is, once you've got that first book out there, keep an open mind, look for these other avenues. Mm-hmm. You may be talking about one topic, but there may be several branches to that one thing and it could be even a fictional genre, but, try to figure out a way to build off that last book you wrote. Yeah. We talked about, in episode 45, write a good book, write better books in the future. Social media, website newsletters, how important these are. If you need help with promotion, where to find new readers, marketing to your existing readers. And today we're going to start with not being afraid to ask your readers to help you with marketing. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to post on, can you please review my book? People are shy that way. But when readers have a really close relationship with an author like Gary's do with him, they would love to help you out.
Yeah.
You should not be afraid to say, hey, can you do this? Would you mind? I received a really, really sweet message from one of our authors a couple days ago. And he took a lot of work writing it. And I said, you just made our day. Everybody in the company's already read. This is so awesome. Would you mind posting this to betterbusinessbureau.org? And they always say yes.
And, and when somebody, is following you and says something good about you, for you to return, to acknowledge that, and give them a chance to go public with their praise of you. It's give people a chance to talk about themselves. And that is a way to do that, to say, hey, I read this book and I really, really liked it. Let me tell you what I think about it. And to think that is going to help that author that you like so much, that is actually helping stroke that person's ego. And and a lot of people like to talk about themselves. And this is a chance to allow that in a non-selfish way.
Well, it allows them to share their experience.
Express their, yeah.
Yeah. So Gary, you did something the other day that got you a bunch more reviews.
Yes. So, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that readers often want to help, but they don't always know how.
Right.
And so recently I asked my followers if they'd consider leaving an honest review of Surviving Grief 365 Days a Year on Amazon if the book helped them. And I wasn't asking for positive reviews. I wasn't saying like, if you really love this book, if you really love my book, will you say so on Amazon? I mean, I was just saying leave it, even if it's a bad one. I was just asking for honest reviews. And just as a side note, I've learned over time that bad reviews are not necessarily bad, because I, as a very avid reader, am always very suspicious when I see a book that just only has perfect 5-star reviews, especially if it's a self-published author. It's one thing, even Stephen King gets ones, it's
sure
like
does.
Danielle Steele gets ones. And so I think it's a little suspicious, because it makes you wonder, geez, I wonder if that's all their big giant family or all their neighbors and friends, so there's nothing wrong with that. So when I'm asking for reviews, I'm honestly not asking for just positive ones. I'm just saying, leave a review if you liked it, you didn't like it. And the response was incredible, because so many people told me they intended to leave a review months or even years earlier, but just forgot. And so sometimes people just need like a little reminder. And reviews matter because they help future readers decide whether a book might be helpful to them. And so that's usually how I'll phrase it. Like I don't say to them like, oh, please, I'm trying to get more reviews. I always just say like, if this book helped you, like, your review is going to make it easier for someone else that's, because my books are on grief and loss, is going to help someone else find it who's grieving and may need the support or the resource. And so people that are grieving and found the book helpful are more than happy to do that, because they're like, oh, I read the book and it really helped me. And so, yeah, if I can do like this favor, for Gary to help him get the book out to other people, then I'm going to do it. And I think the problem is sometimes authors are afraid to ask. But if you're really helping people, it's okay to let them know that reviews make a difference. And most readers are happy to support authors who've made a positive impact on their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, never be afraid to ask for reviews from your readers. Yeah. Now you talked in episode 45, Gary, about the grief author who had a podcast who would host other authors of grief books. And it's a really good idea for authors to get together, and not just in podcasts, but through your email newsletter on your website. You can post articles they've written for your readers. You can do interviews, back and forth interviews, even in text, and patting each other's backs is really important. And again, it spreads the love, from your readers to their readers and back.
And it spreads the publicity.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We were talking about, in episode 45, about being on Facebook and trying to respond to as many messages as you can, because Gary has, thousands and 500,000 followers across all social media platforms. But one thing it's really important to remember when you're promoting your books is it's not all about you. It's a community, of your readers. And I'm not just talking about nonfiction, fiction as well. One thing I forgot to mention in the last episode was fiction authors can also have very popular social media platforms.
Yeah.
One idea some authors do is they create a social media profile for their main character, and they let readers go back and forth and communicate with the main character.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool way to do it. Yeah. What else, Angie? Stop.
We need to teach our dog sign language.
All right, you're gonna have to explain it again because it was in the last episode.
So we can see Gary on video. By the way, your bookshelf in the background is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
That's really, look at that. They're all so
they all stand straight up. We've
right.
got
Our bookshelf did. Yeah. Anyway, Gary has a deaf dog, and we can see Gary, but you can't. But Gary taught his dog sign language, and Gary is signing to his dog. So what did you just tell the dog to do? Was it looked like it was go out to potty or something?
No, it was to lay down. She likes to lay down in the sun, so I was telling her to lay down.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You need to write a book.
I told her in the other episode to eat, so that's what you saw.
Because you're like putting your hand near your mouth, and we're like, Gary, are you okay? Because we can't see the dog. The dog's down.
Now we've got one of our dogs, Moon. If I put my hand up like a stop sign, she knows that means to sit, and that's about all she knows.
That's the only trick she knows.
Hank will just sit there and look at you like you're stupid.
Well, he's stupid.
But
Tank has an IQ problem.
That is amazing that you taught them sign language. It's
great.
Okay, back to the subject. So we discussed it's a community. It's not all about you.
Yeah.
Now this is something that we touched on last week, but I think it bears repeating. Is don't be trusting a third-party website for all of your marketing.
That means for all of your posts, everything.
Yeah. Spread it out. Don't just be on Facebook.
Well, Facebook and Instagram, both owned by Meta, are the most two top. You definitely want to be on both of those. Mm-hmm. But you really want to direct people to your own website when you're doing marketing, and there they can click to buy the books. They can do your newsletter, so that you can, if your links ever change, if Facebook gets mad at you or something. I got put in Facebook jail the other day, and I don't even know why. I'm back, but
because you're you.
Well, there's that. And but if you're directing people to your website, you can always change the links on your website. Same day if something's going wrong. If your book page on Amazon, remember when Amazon, one of their data centers got hacked, and then their cloud service, something happened one time and nobody could get on Amazon for a few hours. Well, if you had people going to your website.
The big Amazon shutdown. I remember that.
Right. You could have instantly changed the link to buy your book to Barnes & Noble instead of Amazon for just a few hours while Amazon was having problems.
Yeah. Or if you're a BookLocker author, you just send them over to BookLocker.com. We can sell it directly to them.
Right. Yeah.
So once somebody's got their book out, and we hear from authors all the time as well. I got contacted by a traditional publisher. Now there's two things to consider. One, is this a real traditional publisher? And you folks know we're all about scams, so you got to be careful with that. But
well, let's mention that a lot of overseas scammers are impersonating actual New York publishers and other traditional publishers in the United States. They copy their websites. They copy their logos. Only if you look at the email really close, you'll see there's some one letter difference, even if they've even bothered to put up a website. Some of them just use Gmail. They give a link to the actual publisher's website, but no traditional publisher, employee, or even literary agent is going to contact you through Gmail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and traditionally, traditional publishers don't reach out to authors, say, hey, we'd really like to publish your book. It's normally authors submitting their manuscripts and saying, would you consider publishing my book?
Yeah, and for the big ones, they get a literary agent first, and that can take months or years. And then if they get that, they get a traditional contract.
But let's talk about, what if somebody does get contacted by a traditional publishing company or wants to consider going there? What kind of things do they need to ponder here?
Well, Gary, you got an offer at one time, didn't you?
I did, and I'll share a little bit about that. So when it happened, I'll be honest with you, I get the thousands of emails I told you about in the other episode. Hundreds of them are from scammers. telling me that, Oprah Winfrey wants my book for her book club and, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm so used to those. And so when this one actually happened, it was a very, very well-known upscale literary agent in New York City, who reached out to me. And I did not believe that it was true, and so I did my usual kind of look, doing a little research, seeing what happened. I eventually ended up calling the office, talking to the secretary at the front desk and saying, I have this Zoom, because she had set up a Zoom meeting with me. And I said, I called and I said, I'm just calling because I have this Zoom meeting with this person. And she said, oh, let me check. And she came back and said, no, 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 I just went into her office and it really was her. And, so it was legitimate. But that being said, after having a very lengthy couple of conversations with her, I realized that I was doing better on my own. And I think it's important for self-published authors to consider that. I think what happens with a traditional publisher or even a literary agent that approaches you, and I learned this through this experience, is that they offer you a big chunk of money up front, but unfortunately, one, you have to have the sales to back that money up. And then once that money is backed up, your commissions or your own royalties significantly drop,
Oh yeah.
and so I decided, why should I do that? I mean, it was kind of like it was being presented to me like you'll do less work and you won't have to market it and you won't, but they were also going to change a lot of things. And I know most authors feel very passionate about their work, and like, it's your work and you don't want somebody completely changing it. And so I didn't want that to happen. But the bottom line, the point I'm trying to get across is, if your book is selling well and you're doing it on your own, why split those royalties or those commissions with somebody else?
Yeah, because that's just one more person taking a chunk of your pie
Right.
every time
Exactly.
you get paid for a book. Um, so, and the other thing we have to consider are the rights, your rights to your work.
Yeah, I landed a contract through St. Martin's Press with a co-author years and years ago, and the initial advance was nice. We had self-published the book prior to that and selling, I mean, tens of thousands of copies. It was selling like hotcakes. We walked into a bookstore in Bangor, Maine one day to take the kids to buy some books. It was a little family bookstore. There were 5 copies of my book on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And now that was back in the day when when all the traditionally published books were ended up in bookstores. And I walked up the counter. I said, "Hey, you've got my book." And she said, "Will you sign them all?" I'm like, "Oh, sure, yeah." But it doesn't work that way anymore.
Yeah.
They take all your rights for like infinity. Okay, St. Martin still owns the rights to that book.
Wow.
So again, MJ Rose and I self-published the book together. It was called How to Publish and Promote Online. The editor kept mucking up the book, inserting all these errors. It took like 2 years to get the book to market. Now think about that. How to publish and promote online. I had a bunch of links. By the time it hit the market, most of the links were dead.
Yeah.
They didn't want to update it. Over a period of time, years and years, they sold 845 copies.
Wow.
If we had kept the book ourselves and just kept publishing it online ourselves, we would have, and we would have updated it.
And
but
updating information.
yeah, they didn't want to update it. So, and we just stopped promoting it because it was a really bad decision.
And I don't think there's so much, what would I call it? Well, in the past, there's been, I guess, a little, I don't know how to word it. People looking at, well, is this a traditional published book or is this one of those self-published books? And self-publishing used to have kind of a
Stigma.
There you go. Stigma attached to it. But, and at this point, so many books are self-published. Who cares if it's self-published? As long as you're making, if you're making good sales,
Yeah,
then it doesn't matter.
more than 3 million books are published in the United States every year now.
Mm-hmm.
And the vast majority are self-published. And I wrote an article about this a couple of weeks ago, and we'll put a link under this podcast episode, number 46. Traditional publishing is dying.
Yep.
They cannot keep up book sales wise. They cannot compete with all the self-published books that are on the market now. Self-published books are winning out.
Yeah, market's flooded now. So yeah,
Right.
They're having to compete with a lot more books that are not traditionally published.
And think about, and more traditional publishers are going out of business. Not the big five yet, but I predict they're going down. I really think they're going down. It's a dying business model. It's a dinosaur in the industry.
And if you think about it, the authors who are making money now are the ones who how many people are actually going to get to chat with Stephen King online?
Right.
But you, Gary, people can actually, interact with him. And so this is, it's a great book. They love the book. He's doing well, but he's still reachable.
Right.
And I think that's the big difference between the self-publishing versus the traditional publishing is, you're not some almost imaginary famous figure. You're flesh and blood human that people can actually get a response from.
Yeah.
And
when you land a traditional contract, they often want to take over the narrative. So nowadays, if you're an unknown author, they're not going to pay for any of your marketing. They're not going to do any marketing. They're just going to hope your book takes off. However, they're going to try to tell you how to do it, how to talk to your customers. When I landed the St. Martin's Press contract with MJ Rose, they reached out to me and they said, well, now we need you to hand over control of your website to us, writersweekly.com. And I laughed. I said, that wasn't in the contract. Now think about that. If I'd done that, they would still be controlling my website.
Yeah.
Because the contract was open-ended. Yeah. Also, when you can land a traditional contract, they want you to sign an offer of first refusal. Part of the contract is they have the right to be the first ones to refuse if you have a new book.
Yeah.
They have a non-compete clause. So if you're not happy with the way they're handling your book, but you want to keep writing the same types of books, you're going to have to offer it to them first, even before you self-publish it.
Yeah. And I mean, regardless of the way your book is published, the ones that are making money are the ones that are actually serving their readers.
Right. And again, why would you, like Gary said, if you're doing so well on your own, why would you hand it all over to somebody else and then be making a fraction of what you were making before? Even if you get an advance up front, and again, most authors don't get advances now, it's just not worth it in the end. If it ain't broke,
don't fix it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
There are authors in my field, colleagues in my field that I've gotten to know, because we collaborate on a lot of things, and several of them have their books are out from traditional publishers, and it always amazes me when I look at, their social media posts and they're showing like boxes and boxes of their book on their dining room table, and I'm like, clearly you need to sell those,
It's like, if they're on
like
your dining room table, they haven't been sold.
It's like clearly someone's paying for those and no one's bought them yet. And, and it kind of blows my mind because I'm like, I've never done that. People ask me all the time, do you have one of your books and can you sign for me? I'm like, I don't keep any of them in my house. They're print on demand. Like if you want it, you buy it. And so I chuckle a little bit when I see them post these, oh, look, here's this book of 200, a box full of 200 of my books. And I'm like, well, you need to sell those. So.
Well, even when you get invited to speak, and we talked about your speaking engagements in episode 45, the person hosting that venue, that meeting, that hospice, that event. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thanks. They order your books. They pay for your books.
Absolutely. Yes. And again, like I said, I see these other authors who, they're like, oh, I'm doing the speaking engagement and don't worry, I'm putting these 3 giant boxes in my car and I'm lugging the books to it, and it's like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at BookLocker, we have a wholesale order form for those types of orders, and they get a discount. Though sometimes they order from Amazon just automatically, and then they don't get the discount. But again, the author doesn't have to lug the books there.
But again, this is and this is happening not because Gary is a traditionally published author, and not just because he has a really great book out. But it's because of the interaction that he's doing, and he's getting invited to these events, and these people are willing to buy that book in bulk to give out to people. kind of one hand shaking the other,
Right.
is you're helping them, they're helping you.
Yeah. Okay, Gary, I think you have some other things you want to share with our listeners and with other authors that will help them in their marketing journey.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about some of the things that I've learned along the way and some of the things that I've changed that have dramatically changed the increase in sales in my book. One of them is that, I was noticing in the beginning that my book, Surviving Grief 365 Days a Year, was selling more than the others. And so having 7 books, I was felt like I was juggling, trying to market all these books. And so I changed my strategy into making the 365 book what I call my flagship book. And so
I like
because
that.
it was selling the most, I started, funneling all my marketing into that one book because I knew that, once somebody read that book and really liked it, they would most likely explore the other 6. And that's exactly what happened. But it also freed up me to spend the majority of my time marketing the book that seemed to be selling the most, and that really helped. And one of the
Oh,
things,
yeah.
one of the things that again dramatically changed was, for years I had been, that particular book right now, I think it was published in 2020. So, no, I think it was published it's like 4 years old. So 2022, whatever that is. But it's 4 years old. And I was noticing that the trajectory of it was going up, and it was going up because of my posts on social media.
Mm.
And on those posts, again, a daily blog, I was at the end of that blog, I was putting my name. And then all of a sudden, one day, this light bulb went on, and I thought, wait a minute, all these people that are commenting, hundreds of people going, oh, I love this thing that you just wrote. They don't know I have a book. And
Mm.
so on one day, and literally this was about 6 months ago, I at the end now write Gary Sturgis, author of Surviving Grief 365 Days a Year, and sales just went through the roof because
Boy, didn't it
now,
just
and
kill you when doesn't
and
it
I
just
thought,
kill you? I
yeah,
realized
and I
later.
thought, yeah, I thought in hindsight, I thought, all that time, all those years, really, I could have been putting, that this was written by the person that wrote this book, and so
Mm.
that drastically changed it. The other thing that changed it is I used to, and I don't anymore. I used to post like, here's my book, and like, buy it. It's available on Amazon. You will never now hear me ever tell someone to buy my book. What I do now is I make my readers do my marketing for me. And how I do that is I'll post a post on social media with usually a picture of my book, but my book is not the dominant thing in the picture. It might be my book like resting on a nightstand table. And then I'll say in the post, where do you keep this book? So many readers tell me that they found this daily book such a comfort to them in their grief journey. Where do you keep this book? And then I get hundreds and hundreds of comments. I keep mine on my kitchen table. Oh, I read mine every morning. I have one person that said, I keep it next to my Bible. I mean, what better review can you get than someone
Right?
saying, I read your book and I read the Bible, And but every single one of those comments, quite frankly, is a review for my book. And so I'm saying nothing, but all these people that are reading these comments are saying, "Wow, that must be a good book." Look at all the people. It's not me, the author, saying it. It's my readers saying it, and that is so important. Let
I think
let
that's
your
far more
read
powerful than
Right.
you telling people buy my book.
Let your readers do your marketing. So
Yeah.
so again, you'll never hear me say like buy my book. I don't say that. I let my readers talk about why they like my book, and that in turn makes other people want to read it as well.
And that's why it's also so important to have a personal relationship with your readers on
Yeah,
social media.
Right.
absolutely.
And then the my goal for the first time reader. So for example, I get on average about 1,000 new followers a week. So it rounds out to something close to like 100 a day. So to me, that's 100 potential new readers that might want to read one of my books.
It's
And
incredible.
if they read the first one, and now they're on this social media page, and I've built trust with them. They trust me. They read my book. They come to read my blogs. they're so likely to buy another one. I mean, I have people send me, pictures, they send me pictures and there are like all 7 of my books on their table. I bought all of them.
That's
And so,
awesome.
yeah. And so it's like, it is that chain effect where they read that first book and then they may read it in their first year of grief, but then in their second year of grief they're like, oh, he has this other book too, like my book What Feeds Your Soul is more about your journey, like after you've gone through the really horrible part of the grieving process and now you're just trying to figure out your purpose and your meaning and where you go from there. And so they're apt to buy that maybe 2 years after they bought one of my other books. And so focusing on that one book as opposed to trying to juggle all of them and market all of them, pick one of your books. If you're an author that has more than one book, pick one to be your flagship, typically the one that seems to resonate the most with people or sell the most copies. Focus your marketing primarily on that because your other ones will follow suit once they found you, trust you, and liked what you wrote.
Yeah.
Great idea. Yeah.
Because
And,
my,
yeah.
my marketing isn't really about selling books. It's about continuing a conversation. And I
Yeah.
think that's important. What's helping somebody in month 3 isn't always the same support they need in year 3. And so the nature of my particular niche being grief and loss is every day there's someone else grieving. Someone who's not grieving today is probably going to be grieving tomorrow. So in that situation, as far as readership goes, it's there's always going to be somebody that's gonna need that book or want that book or need that resource.
Well, I think more important is it's this community of, almost 500,000 people experiencing, even though they're in different parts of the grieving process, different steps, they're all experiencing it together and they're all supporting each other. It's not just them talking to Gary and Gary talking to them.
Yeah.
They're all talking to each other and the community feeling is outstanding.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And one other point I just wanted to mention too. This was something that happened many years ago. This happened when I wrote my first book. I didn't have my community. I just was a grieving widower, and I wrote the book. And I was reaching out to people that I knew that the book was going to be coming out, and I was wanting to find ways to how can I get people to know that I have this book and so I was reaching out to all these people, like Megan Devine and David Kessler and, all these top people in grief. And what I found in that is that, what I've created and what I've tried to keep very different. And that's why when we said and talked in the other episode about me being a grief expert, I don't call myself a grief expert because, I reached out to Megan Devine and I reached out to David Kessler even now, years later, with my social media following. If you look at their social media following on Facebook alone, I have double the following of either one of them, and they're both like world renowned, the people in this field. And if I can't get a response from them, then how can the average person get a response from them? And I didn't want to be like that. I wanted to be reachable. Anyone that emails me, they get a personal response from me, always. And I'm very compassionate about that. I'm very passionate about making sure that they know that I'm not someone that's saying that I know more than you or that I'm expert in anything. I just want them to know that I'm there for them and that they're gonna get a response from me. And so the only person that did respond to me her name is Corey Serrata. She's the author of Someone Died, Now What? She's a very, very well-known grief specialist up in Canada. And so anyway, she responded to me and I was so excited, and that's why when authors now write to me a lot, I can be honest with you guys, I have this bookshelf behind me is not real. It's a Zoom background.
Oh.
But yeah, and that's why it's so neat. But no, I
You
do
could
have
have gotten away without saying that.
Yeah,
In the last episode, I was telling Gary, all your books are white. That's a beautiful bookshelf.
Yeah, no, it's fake, but I do have a real bookshelf that's very messy, and on that bookshelf is like hundreds of grief books that grief authors have sent me. and they send it to me and they say, will you please read my book and write a review for me? And I'm always, always, always happy to do that for them. Because when I reached out to Corey Serrata, she did that for me. She did that for my
Oh,
book. And
yeah.
and that was extremely helpful in getting my book out there. And one of the pieces of advice she gave me, and I'm sharing this for authors that maybe have a book that they feel isn't selling that well. I said to her, I hope this book will get to people. I hope it will reach people. And she was the one that said to me, if you want to reach the people, maybe you should set something up. And I said, like what? And she said, like a Facebook page or something on Instagram where you're letting people know what you're doing and you're letting them know you have a book. And so she was the one that kind of planted the seed of like, oh, okay, maybe I should try starting like, and so I picked Facebook because I knew that the best at the time. Instagram was fairly new and all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
I did that and I remember so appreciate that. But the biggest piece of advice that stuck in my mind, and I still remember to this day, is she said to me, don't worry. She said, what is your ultimate goal? And I said, well, I want to help people. I want to help people that are grieving. And I'm hoping like my book will do that. But I also want to like talk to people. I want to do like speaking engagements. I want to, maybe become like a grief counselor, all this stuff. Basically, I wanted to have what I have now, this surviving grief. Quite frankly, surviving grief is a business, and
Yeah.
and that's what I wanted. And I remember her saying to me, Gary, don't worry about how many copies your book sells. Think of your book as your calling card. She said,
Mhm.
because what your book is doing is your book is giving you credibility. People are going to come, if people come to your Facebook page and they say, okay, who's this guy? Oh, he's just some guy that lost his spouse. Okay, there's thousands of people like that. But she said, if they come and they say, oh, he lost his spouse, but he also wrote a book about it. And I think I'm going to get that book and see what that's all about. She said, think of it as your calling card. And that was the best advice she ever gave me. Because of that advice, I created the community. I started doing workshops. I became a grief coach. Everything was born out of that book, even though that book wasn't selling thousands of copies. And even to this day, it still doesn't sell thousands of copies. But it was my calling card. It was what people associated me with was that book.
That's great advice. Gonna need an article on that for Writers Weekly. Your calling card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting though that it's your focus became not the book but the helping people, the reaching out to people, communicating with people, and the book became well, your books became successful based on what you're doing outside of the books.
And you went into this business with just a book, but your goal was to help people.
Yeah.
Your goal was never to make money. It was to help people. And people see that in Gary's personality.
Yeah.
They see that in your
Yeah.
personality, that you're just a really, really caring person and you want to help people. You email back everybody yourself who emails you. You don't have a secretary sitting there, answering your
No.
emails.
My
I
dog,
wish I
my
had.
deaf, my deaf dog is my secretary. She's the only one that sits beside me all day while I'm working on all this stuff.
But yeah, it's really important to have a personal connection with your readers and to really care about them and not think about the money so much. But then now you've got 7 books on the market, you got speaking gigs, and all these other things going on,
Yeah.
and you've turned it into a business.
Yeah, and
But you
like I
still,
said,
but go ahead.
no, no, like I said, I think it's really important not, if you want your book to sell, and who doesn't? I mean, like any author wants their book to be successful and to sell. But the bottom line is not to make it sound like that all the time. Here I
Yeah.
am just trying to sell my book, sell my book, sell my book, because that in a way turns me off, and I'm sure it turns other people off too. You have to make them want to buy your book, and you have to make them trust you and know that you're honest about what you're trying to do or what you're trying to accomplish with that book, as opposed to just like, I want my book to be a bestseller and I want my book to sell thousands of copies so I can become rich. I
Right.
mean, hey, if that's what you want, and you can achieve it, great. But I mean, if you really just wrote it because you're passionate about what you wrote, or you're passionate about the topic, whether it's fiction or science fiction or nonfiction or a memoir or whatever it is, if you're passionate about it, you have to share yourself with the book, not just posting, buy my book, because no one's gonna do that. There's too many books out there.
That sounds like a really boring way to promote yourself anyway. Just
Yeah.
keep saying, buy my
Yeah,
book. It's a lot
Yeah.
more fun to actually have conversations with people. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna let you guys have the last.
Well, Gary, did you have anything else?
Oh yeah. Anything more?
No, I think that was it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Start over with what you were just saying.
Well, I'm just gonna give each of y'all the last say here before we wrap this up.
Well, Gary, tell us again where people can find your books, your Facebook group, and your website address. And again, we'll put links to everything under this episode at writersweekly.com/podcast, episode 46.
Sure. The easiest place to find everything is my website, Surviving Grief, at www.sgrief.com. And right now, I'm actually in the process of getting ready to release a brand new updated website. So the existing site is a bit outdated, but the new one is coming soon. But readers can find information about all my books, free grief resources, articles, and my monthly Healing Hearts newsletter there. And they can also join the Surviving Grief community on Facebook, where more than 425,000 people from around the world come together to support one another through their loss. My goal has always been to just remind people that while grief changes us, none of us have to walk through it alone. One thing I'd like to say is that my book wasn't an overnight success. It built momentum over years, not weeks. And I think it's important for independent authors to remember that consistent service to readers beats chasing quick sales.
Amen.
There was some famous person, and I wish I could remember the name, but I had heard that they once said it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. and I think that really resonates. Gary, before I close this, I am going to take your advice, and instead of me telling everybody to come to booklocker.com, I'd like you as one of our authors to review booklocker.com right now for our listeners. Tell us all about how you feel about booklocker.com.
Oh boy. Well, no, honestly though, BookLocker has been fabulous. I mean, I share BookLocker with authors all the time. Again, as an author and as a best-selling author now, I have like I said to you, I have bookshelves full of grief books that people send me. And I also have people that say to me, I've been following you and I read all your books, and I've been thinking about writing a book about the loss of my child, or thinking about writing a book about the loss of my spouse, And so I get that all the time, and I always direct them to BookLocker. And one of the reasons I do that is because one, everything is just so simple, and I have authors come to me and they'll say, I hired this publisher, and I just finished my book and it's January, and they told me it should be out by next January. And I'm like, wow, a year? Like, why are you waiting so long? And I mean, like, I know for myself with BookLocker, like my books were out in like sometimes a month, so it's like there was it was very quick and it was very easy to work with. And also just the fact that you guys are always there even after the process. It's not like, here's your book, we're done with it. We published it and you're on your own. And I've never felt like that. I've always been able to contact someone. I've always been able to get help really quickly. And honestly, I always say that I could not have gotten here to this point in my journey as an author and becoming an international best-selling author without the help of BookLocker. And so I never take that for granted, and I never take BookLocker for granted, or you guys.
Plus, we've become friends over the years. Yeah. Sometimes Gary and I shoot text each other at night that have nothing to do with publishing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I sent him the video that stormed the other night where we thought we
were going to get blown away. Yeah.
It's either that or Brian falling off of things. Other than
Brian's
that,
falling off ladders. I tell you, it never gets old.
So you had not mentioned this earlier in the episode of the last one. The name of your newsletter is Surviving Hearts.
No, it's called Healing Hearts.
Okay, I was close.
And they can subscribe to that. It's monthly. It comes out once a month, and people are loving it. It's only been out for a few months now, but people are really enjoying it. And one of the things that, not to take up more of your time, but one of the things we didn't talk about was one, having a newsletter, and two, having a mailing list. And I can be honest with you, I didn't for years have a mailing list. I just, in the past year, set up a mailing list. And I have, close to 8,000 subscribers on that mailing list already.
Wow.
And what I found is, yeah, I have over 500,000, followers on social media, but that doesn't mean 500,000 people are actually looking at anything. And so you're really devote readers, the people that really are passionate about your work and you as an author, they're the ones that become the subscribers of your newsletter, and they're the ones that are on your mailing list. And I noticed a significant increase in book sales when I started that newsletter and that mailing list. So it's really important. And I know, Angela, I think you had talked in the other episode about, how important a website is. And I never take that for granted either, because Facebook, I know for a fact, my Facebook that I've worked on for years and has, 500,000 followers, that could get hacked tomorrow and go away. And I'm very mindful of that, but nobody can take away what I own on my own website. And so as an author, it's really important to have that be a place where people can find my books, find my blogs. And so that's why I'm upscaling my website. I'm putting more effort into my website than a lot of the social media, because I want it to belong to me and not somebody else.
Right. Yeah.
So, something I would throw out there too is as an author and you're building up your following, don't be afraid to share some personal experiences and things that have nothing to do with your book or even your, just like we, whenever we can, we offer the news from the home office stuff, and we share these funny stories about things we go through.
Well, one of our most clicked on news from the home office columns this year was Brian broke his back on Friday, but he's alive and he's not paralyzed.
There you go. So
somebody responded to me about that just yesterday, and it had happened 6 weeks ago. So, but like Brian said, when you share personal details as an author with your followers, they love that. They like to feel like they know you personally,
and they trust you. And I think that's important.
Right. They don't trust you on ladders, but
well, yeah, but they trust me because I'm able to tell everybody how stupid I was to fall off a ladder. Well,
there is the humility factor too.
Well, I was certainly humiliated.
Well, there's authors who go out and, beat their own drums and talk about how great they are and how great a writer they are and everything. And they aren't humble with readers, and they don't admit their mistakes, and they don't talk about their weaknesses or when they're sad or anything like that. Yeah. And News from the Home Office has always been our most successful column on Writers Weekly since day one. Yeah. There you go. For some reason, people just want to read and see what Brian did this week.
Stupid things we did, or when the ghost shows up, or other things. So it's funny. One of our highest clicked podcast episode is still
the one with the ghost in it,
where we had that ghost voice come into
it came in and said
the audio.
And we'll put a link to it under this episode, and we'll tell you exactly what minute and second to go to, and you can hear it, and you can let us know. Click on the comments. Tell us what you think it said.
You think they're saying.
We know exactly what it said. It's weird because one of the names is the name of one of our grandkids. That was creepy. So
okay. All right. So if nobody else has anything more to add, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up.
Okay.
Gary, we really appreciate you coming and joining us.
Always love talking to Gary. He's awesome.
Yeah. And y'all be sure to check out writersweekly.com and click on the podcast link, writersweekly.com/podcast. You'll find all of our episodes there. So if you like one, check out another.
Well, if you're listening to this one, go back and listen to episode 45. And also Gary, and we'll put a link to this one. Gary's been on our podcast before.
That's true. We've had Gary before, so we'll link to that.
Always a good time.
Okay. So we appreciate you all listening. Be sure to join us next time on the Writers Weekly podcast.
Bye, Gary.
Bye. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, later. Bye.
Bye.